for the family and no wages. Despite having lost everything, they're grateful to be home. Stranded at the airport for days and without food, many shared their experience of the ordeal.
The situation was very critical in Libya. We were lucky enough to save our lives.
While they praised their local Libyan employees for helping them leave, they've complained their own embassy did little to help.
We are very happy on our soil, but the government of Pakistan has done nothing for us.
Pakistani embassy officials maintain they are working with the local authorities in Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt and Turkey, and officials have been dispatched to the Libyan border to receive its citizens. As Pakistan joined the long list of countries to evacuate its stranded citizens, there's criticism abound that government is doing too little too late, offering sympathy but little support to some 18,000 Pakistanis still left behind in Libya. Kamal Haider, AlJazeera, Islamabad.
Japan's Foreign Minister Seiichi Maehara has decided to resign. Maehara had been criticized for accepting political donations from a foreign national. Maehara initially said that he didn't know about it, but later acknowledged that his office had accepted the donation from an ethnic South Korean resident in Kyoto. China's government has tightened controls on foreign media and stepped up security in Beijing and Shanghai following calls for pro-democracy protests. Security forces kept a close watch over Beijing's Tiananmen Square and possible protest sites in a bustling nearby shopping district. Meanwhile, protesters in Hong Kong have taken to the streets again to support the so-called Jasmine movement, as Rob McBride reports.
A tiny protest with big hopes. A handful of activists, outnumbered at least 10 to 1 by police, turning up in support of China's Jasmine movement. It was an even smaller turnout than the week before. Then the confrontation with police angrier, with protesters vowing to continue indefinitely despite their number.
But we will come here every Sunday in support of the Jasmine movement in China. Actually, we are all prepared to be arrested.
In mainland China, with the opening of the National People's Congress and the leadership vowing to maintain stability at all costs, activists there face an almost impossible task to organize any meaningful protests. A heavy security clampdown in the streets and in cyberspace will see to that. Allowed to protest here in Hong Kong, activists in this well-connected city are also free to use as many online tools as their fingers will allow in their continuing campaign. Fanning Yim is in touch with 10 activists in mainland China, tweeting their news onto 1,000 other people.
It's basically two types of news: activists who have been detained, and then also dates, times, and venues of Jasmine Revolution gatherings.
An online community quietly hacking away at the system.
There are lots of restrictions in China, but there are also lots of hackers in China. And therefore, they are smart and they know how to gain the information beyond the state control.
Activists here say their campaign is different to the Middle East, insisting their long, slow approach will eventually take hold. But as this protest ended for another week, the numbers are so small it's sometimes hard to see any movement at all. Rob McBride, AlJazeera, Hong Kong.
Now to the battle to save ancient woodlands containing enormous trees from a profit-driven corporation earmarked for commercial logging in Canada. Imtiaz Tayyab reports.
This is Avatar Grove, a range of red cedars and Douglas firs that have been standing here for between 500 and 1,000 years. The environmental campaigner Ken Wu discovered the site while exploring for ancient trees over a year ago, giving it its now widely used name, inspired by the Hollywood blockbuster when he found it was earmarked for logging. Wu says the plight of the fictitious planet isn't too dissimilar to what's happening here.
Avatar, in large part, is about saving old-growth forests on an alien planet. And we realized that we have an incredible rainforest here on Earth that needs protecting.
The province of British Columbia is one of the few places in the world that has such massive and ancient forests. Its government is also one of the few that allows for the commercial logging of such trees. Environmentalists say if policy isn't changed, this is what's left. Nearly 5 million hectares of BC's forests, over 140 years old, are protected by the province. But with over 95 million hectares of forest land in total, environmental groups say that isn't enough. The plight of Avatar Grove has attracted tens of thousands, and after the province of BC's own independent forestry oversight body urged officials to spare the range of ancient trees, the government appears to be listening.
I do think that the public's calling out for better mechanisms to manage our forests. We've continued to do that, and I think as a government we've got lots of examples. Is there more work to do? There's always going to be more work to do.
The logging company with rights to cut Avatar Grove are now indicating they won't. Environmental groups say public pressure is to thank, but add millions of other hectares of ancient growth forests in BC also need saving. Imtiaz Taib, Al Jazeera, Vancouver Island, British Columbia.
Finally, it's not particularly pleasant work, but for some Indonesians on the island of Java, catching geckos has become a lucrative business. Step Vassen went out with the night hunters.
A watchful eye, hunters ready for action. Armed with sticks and hooks, they spot their prey. A sudden attack. The animal doesn't stand a chance. Their prey is not a bear or a pig, but a small lizard. Still, it's dangerous work.
I have been bitten before, and because I tried to pull the gecko from my arm, it started to bite harder, and I got a nasty flesh wound. I cured my wound with tree wax.
Hunters can spot the small animals in the dark because their headlights make their eyes turn red. As soon as night falls, geckos come down from the trees looking for food. That's when the hunters venture out. To be a gecko hunter, you need very sharp eyes, a lot of patience, but also a lot of courage, because even in the middle of the night, they look for geckos at a graveyard. But this job is much better than they ever had before. The captured geckos are kept in a cage before they are killed one by one. Those who have laid eggs can stay alive a little longer. Their remains are put on a stick to dry. Then, by thousands, they are put in boxes to be shipped to Hong Kong and Taiwan. This one small operation provides an income to more than 50 people.
People in Taiwan use medicines from geckos against the cold. In the cold season, they buy a lot. They also use it against asthma and erection problems.
The demand for traditional medicine in China and Taiwan has brought some wealth to impoverished villages in East Java. But the gecko business has a downside. Because of the high demand, fewer lizards can be found in the forest. Farmers are now starting to breed geckos to stay in business. Step Vassen, Al Jazeera, Probolinggo, East Java.
Hello, this is Al Jazeera. Adrian Finnegan here with you in Doha. The headlines this hour. Fierce fighting between Libyan government forces and rebels is focused now on the country's central coast, with